Yo, you guys can hear me? Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, cannot hear you. How?
Alright.
Yo, I can hear you.
Alright, thank you.
I cannot hear you.
Just a disclaimer before I start. So, this whole session will be recorded for archive purposes, so that in the future, for people who haven't joined, at least can watch it lah. So, just a heads up lah for those who are here. So, hi guys, my name is Hazid. I will go by Mr. Jacket, and today I will be teaching you on how to pressure in Tekken. So, to start things off, pressure, I'm sure most of you guys who play, right, you might assume it's just like doing fast races, like to make sure you stay glued to your opponent 24/7. Well, that is actually one aspect of pressuring, but pressure does not only mean constant fast frames on your opponent, it can also mean controlling or at least taking advantage of the situation, such as cornering them to the wall through movement and using fast moves to snuff out their approach or keep out. So for example, let's go with the first one, cornering them to the wall. In cases where you're trying, you don't need, like I said earlier, you don't need to like press buttons 24/7 in order to pressure them. Just by using your movement as if for those who joined Hong Kong's lesson last week, for those of you who know, you can actually just use your movement to push them to the wall because out of just pure suffocation, and this is enough to actually count as pressure because you are actually getting better positioning in the long run. So now in this case, for example, their back, you use your movement and then you got their backs against the wall. Now you can do whatever you want. You can just pressure, you can force plus frames, and all it takes is a simple wall spell. So that's to start things off, and that's to start off the first part. And the second part, when I said using fast moves to snuff out their approach or keep out. So on top of using your movement to put them in a shittier position, if let's say they are the type of person who are very antsy, they like to retaliate off, like, oh, this guy is just moving me to the wall, I think I should press a button. Sometimes, but while pressuring, you can also use your tools such as like down for one, a single jab, just like around the range 2 or range 1 area, while you're gaining the positioning advantage. And this is so that apart from one second. Okay. Apart from actually putting them into a crappier position wise, you are also suffocating them with like the tools that you have. So let's say like I said, they want to retaliate, right? But they can't, because every time you try to do anything, you are snuffing them out with fast moves, and you're not even using your plus frames at all, like in June's case 441, which is like +6 on block. You are just using simple fast tools at a range just to substitute them over and over. And using both of these in tandem is crucial when it comes to actually pressuring your opponent, because it allows you to do a few things. You can get better positioning, you can force your opponent to be aggravated and make mistakes, and it allows you to not take too many risks when it comes to getting the advantage over your opponent. Like for example, in this case, this move is +6 on block, so it's obviously going to be one of your tools that you will use to enforce your pressure on your opponent, right? But if you use this too much, right, because it's a linear move, I'm not sure. Got all and but for example, I hope I can get this with the follow-up, but this move is very linear. So even though it's really good at pressuring your opponent because of the frames, if you abuse it too much and your opponent gets a hang of it, it's linear and then they get to your back and then you die, just like that. But instead of using that, right, if let's say you just use like simple tools, you don't like low committal but very annoying, something like this lah, while also moving them to the wall through mental frames lah, by doing both things at the same time. It doesn't put you into a disadvantageous situation because this is a fast tool that unless if you're too obvious with it, it will never punish it. It's really hard to punish lah. It's too fast. And before they even know it, you already got them to the wall. And now you can do whatever you want from there. Pass frames, what are they going to do? They're gonna do anything. Their back's against the wall. You won. And then you can do whatever you want from here. So yeah lah. So let me give you. There's also another example from this, apart from just getting them to the wall. Let's use a wall situation, like let's say you manage to get them to the wall. Where is the... Okay, so... Wait, let me just play this for a bit. Okay. So let's say after you get them to the wall, right? It doesn't always mean you win immediately, right? Because they can always get out of the wall through their own movement, if they are smart enough. However, like I said in the very beginning, pressure does not mean enforcing fast frames. It also means enforcing your movement and your pose. So if let's say so for those of you who come to Peng Kwan's speech last week, when he told you that if your opponent is trying to get off the wall, you move alongside them and use your tools to keep them at the wall, that is not only a form of spacing, but it's also considered to be a form of pressure at the same time. It is both. So in this case, right, you can actually just, if let's say you manage to get them to the wall and then apart from just using your passports, right, you got the threat of using your homing tools, if any. In my case, I have a +3 homing tool that's a high, or a really far long range homing tool that while it's -8 on block, because it's so far range, it is still technically my advantage because like there's so much distance that they can't really escape the wall that easily unless if they're a border lah. Because in this range, they say they both block down for 3 and they try to move again. I can always do it again. Or if they want to run up and do whatever, I can use magic 4. Right, for example, here. Okay, so let's say for example, right, I'm gonna use June as an example. Let's say apart from them like trying to move around the wall, let's say for example you manage to coordinate to the wall and you want to do a wall splat lah, but it failed because they blocked it. Because in June's case, because she has a really long range down for 3, which is homing tool, because you're playing with the range between you and your opponent, like I mentioned earlier, using your movement, you can use this to your advantage, even though you're minus. See? And you can go from there lah. So, and this applies to any other character, not necessarily June. You just have to play with your character's strengths and how good they are, how they are able to keep the opponent at the wall. For example, if it was Paul, you can use back 1. You can use QCD4, you can use back 1, and so forth lah. You just have to be creative with your character. But the point is that pressure does not have to be using fast frames 24/7. You just need to know how to make sure your opponent is suffocated every time they try to do anything. It's like if I were to poke you with a stick. Sure, it does nothing, but it's very annoying, and over time you're gonna get aggravated and make dumb decisions. And in this case, it's the same thing. You are just going to wither them down bit by bit, positioning wise, and like chip them down with chip damage or just like pokes, and eventually these sort of things will add up. And because they are at the wall in this case, right, The moment they make a mistake, the moment you notice them try to make a mistake or get aggravated and do something, you capitalize on it. Like in this case, like I showed you just now, after I did a move, and Paul tried to approach me and actually like try to press a button, but because I anticipated it and he was aggravated, I can just like magic 4 and then get a full combo from there. So that's one of the main examples in this case. Now let's talk about what if, let's say, you want to enforce plus frames. Default 1. There we go. So let's say, assuming your character has a very good slash kick and you manage to get a plus frame on your opponent, like a running tree or whatever. In this case, I got this on. So what do you want to do? So how do you utilize your plus frames in order to maintain your pressure for your opponent? How do you glue yourself to your opponent when you get the opportunity? So first thing first, it all comes down to what your opponent likes to do. You still need to work around your opponent. You cannot just simply blindly go, oh, I'm in plus frames, I can do whatever I want. No, you need to play around with whatever tools you have alongside with your opponent's tendencies. Because even in this case, when it's plus 6, what if your opponent doesn't like to respect you and you want to go for like heavy mix-up lah? For example, let's say I want to do let's say I want to do 4-4-1 plus 2 to 4-4-1 plus 2 again. If the opponent anticipates it, they can always mash me out like with a down for 2 or hop kick, or they can just sidestep again to make it win, and then I die either way. So in this case, you need to test the waters with your opponent. You cannot blindly just jump in. You wouldn't jump blind into the sea if there's shark and test the waters, right? You want to actually test bit by bit, test the water, see what your opponent likes to do lah. For example, and the safest way to do this right is to free trap. So in this case, right, I'm plus 6, my downfall is 13 frames. So I'll just tell you to the beginners as well lah. So the fastest tool that pretty much every character has is a jab. A jab is 10 frame, and in your case, because you are plus 6, right, you cannot how frames work is that any move that is faster, any move with a startup that's like faster than your opponent's will always beat it. Like for example, if I were to do a move that's 10 frames and my opponent does a move that's higher than that, 12 frames, 10 is lower than 12, 10 is faster than 12, so 10 will always beat 12. So in this case, if I were to do a jab and Paul does a downfall 1, he will always win. I will always win. So in this case, if let's say your opponent tries to stab or press a button, right, and you want to check them without like putting much risk to yourself, you can always just use a fast foot tool in order to stun them out. And in this case, right, because I'm so plus and I use a plus tool to check them, in Jun's case, you can hardly step her unless you like Zafina or something, and you definitely cannot mash her out. There are some exceptions to these rules like backing blows and parries, but I will cover that shortly. But this is pretty much how the basic Tekken gameplay works lah. If you manage to do a move if you manage to enforce plus frames and your move comes out below 10 frames, you will always win. You will pretty much 90% of the time always win. Nothing they can do about it, apart from parries. But I'll cover that. Alright. So I think now would be a good time for me to get into the outliers as well. So we'll start off with this. What if I want to pressure my opponent, but my opponent is the type of person who likes to do keep out launches at any given moment? So let me set this up here. And I'll set it at any random interval. So if let's say you want to approach your opponent, right? You're trying to approach your opponent and then do pressure, but you always get hit by down forward 2. I'm sure all of you have faced a scenario like this, right? Where you want to pressure your opponent, but you couldn't because you're afraid of their keep out launchers. Their keep out hop kick, jump down for 2, pull down for 2, or whatever lah, like whatever keep out tools that you are afraid of. So in this case, right, before you pressure your opponent, you must think to yourself, this guy loves to keep up use tools to prevent me from coming in easily. He's just throwing stuff out and hoping for the best. He's hoping that I would actually come in. So what do you do to this? Well, you use your movement. You don't overextend. So I think I might as well teach it now. I know it's not really a beginner sort of thing, but it's more towards the intermediate side. But I see a lot of the guys in the chat I believe you are mostly I think most of you guys in the chat already have a rough idea of like how movement works, like the basic movement. But I think I'll explain it in a way that even beginners can understand. But if you don't, feel free to ask in the Q&A after my session lah, which will be shortly later. So I'm going to teach about dash blocking. So dash blocking is, well, when you dash and then you block. Like that's it. It's a very simple concept. It's basically you're basically just trying to dash to your opponent, and then you hold back before you reach your opponent. So the reason behind this, right, is so that you can cover ground. You can get closer to your opponent without getting caught by random stray launchers lah. So because in Tekken, right, you can actually cancel movement into another movement. Like movement is not like what is it? You can cancel movement over and over and over. You can just move around like wherever you want, however you want lah. And the same applies to moving forward and backward at the same time. You can move forward very quickly and then stop by holding back to block. Forward dash, block, forward dash, block, forward dash, block, forward dash, block, until you reach your opponent. And then when you reach your opponent, you can just like do whatever you want. You can just do whatever you want. Stick them like glue and so forth. So yeah, basically just fuck. That's not a good sign, but just slowly approaching opponent, gauge the spacing of their tools, and go from there lah. And if you're really lucky, right, if let's say you get close to your opponent and then you don't get caught by the straight down forward 2, right, you can actually, if you're quick enough, you can always just like punish them accordingly. Like, you just stay around the range of your opponent if you feel like he's gonna wave. And if let's say you get close enough and you think he's not gonna press a button, you can miss now, pressure all you want lah. And if he's smashing the button down forward 2 over and over, then you get free damage from that because you stuck to him like glue. You are rewarded for approaching your opponent safely by doing dash blocking, and now you're close enough. And bonus if they're against the wall. So yeah lah. That's one way to approach your opponent once you want to pressure lah, in case if you're not familiar with how to approach them. And let's see. So the reason behind this is it prevents them doing this dash blocking, prevents them from simply just doing keep out launches for free. It allows you to get safely go to your opponent while making them look like fools, just simply whiffing things for free, and then you get a free punish off of them lah. So now I think I will go to the exceptions part lah. So the exceptions is knowing when to pressure, because sometimes, right, depending on your opponent, it might not even be necessary to even pressure at all, because the whole point of pressuring, right, is two things, like I mentioned earlier: to get them to a better position. To get yourself to a better position, and or to frustrate your opponent enough to make them do mistakes. There are two general criteria you want to get out of pressuring your opponent. You pressure them enough so that they make mistakes, or they get themselves back to the wall, and you can do whatever you want lah, because they're in a shitty position. So going back to this first part, right? When he's doing keep out stuff lah. So in this case, right, it'll be ideal for you to approach your opponent and do punishes lah. But in this case, but sometimes if you want, right, that's not the only way to go about it sometimes. Because if because like I said earlier, you have two criteria, and one of them is already fulfilled by just him doing keep out launches. He's already making the mistake for you. In other words, he is frustrated enough to simply just throw out buttons for free. It's like he give you a 5-course buffet. It's like he give you a 5-star buffet just like that, just for free, just without even the need to pressure. He just give you button for free. And then you know what to do from there lah. You just like punish them for his mistakes, dash block your movement, and then see, now they're back against the wall and you can do whatever you want lah. Like all those keep outs all screwed up just because they decided to press a button or not for you. So, and apart from that, right, this also applies to let me give you another scenario as well. So let's say this one, if I'm not mistaken, they changed it to 5 frames, but I'll try to it's -8, so okay. Okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah, something like this. So I'm sure you guys seen it before, at least with characters with parries, like for example Asuka, Jun, or in this case Paula. So every time you try to take your turn, right, they always parry, preventing you from doing anything. Like you're scared to even press a button because of that parry. So what do you do against people like this, right? Well, like I mentioned before, this is one of the exceptions when it comes to crashing opponents, and it's also one that advantages to you. It opens them up for mistakes. So, which is one of the criteria of pressuring lah, which they are giving to you for free. So in this case, if let's say you anticipate they are going to do keep out buttons or parries lah, get it out. Like pressuring is nice, especially in Tekken because you are rewarded for pressuring. But just because you are rewarded for pressuring does not mean you should do it all the time. There are always defensive options to snuff you out, like parries and all that lah. So you should not, even though you have the opportunity to pressure, you also have to think to yourself, is your opponent the type of person to try and play around it with parries or power crushes and so forth? And if so, you should pretty much play around that. You shouldn't blindly pressure 24/7 when even if you get the opportunity. You also have to think, does my opponent like to do keep out launches, or does my opponent like to do like parries or power crushes to get me damage for even trying to pressure? Well, and if the answer is yes, just bait it out. It's free damage. And let's see. And apart from parries and actually, let me use a very common one lah. Not Paul.
Get ready for the next battle.
So, for those of you who have played this character, I believe you might have seen it once. This shit. So, let's say... Wait. What's a good tool? Screw it lah. I'll just use this as an example lah. See, so basically this is a third option. So in this case, you block the move and you try to retaliate, but they decide to do a back sync blow and then like end your turn. in this case it's minus 18, right? But it drives the opponent home lah. Some players are willing to actually like take the extra mile just to this, to allow your opponent to a false sense of security, and then suddenly they pull off some gimmick to counter whatever you're trying to do lah. And in this case, one of those things is backswing blows. And I'm sure, or if you haven't lah, there are some Devil Jin players out there who will actually like show this out. And while it is launch punishable, you can see how far back it goes that it will make pretty much everything weak. And it goes into hit as well, so it's like it puts you into an even shittier situation. And chances are, unless if you're prepared for it, it's actually not common for people to launch it as well. Unless if you really need to do it. Now, remember when I said earlier that apart from using your fast tools, you can also use your movement, right, to corner your opponent against the wall. In this case, it applies here. If let's say like apart from just like baiting it out, right? Let's say you block a move, right, but you're not sure if they are going to take their turn afterwards or if they're just going to do a backswing blow. But you're afraid that if he does a string and then like I lose my turn, then I'm going to look like a fool. What if he does something like down 4-1-2 into her swing? I mean down 4-1-2 into like more pokes or pressure. Well, that's what movement is for. So in this case, right, movement is your friend in Tekken. Like it's always your friend. Like if you don't know what to do and you're afraid of doing anything, move, get a better position. So in this case, right, for example, if let's say I'm against a Devil Jin who likes to mix up like some silly string into a backswing blow, or they like to take their pressure, right, but let's say I don't know which one he's going for, and I don't want to take the risk, because if I take the risk, I'll be put into a shitty situation. Well, in this case, you use your movement. Like, there's no harm into using your movement, because it's the best sort of thing. It's the best sort of way to get around your opponent without putting yourself at risk. Because, like I said earlier, you can always cancel your movement into like block whenever you want, and it allows you to get better positioning within the stage without putting yourself in a disadvantageous situation. Imagine if let's say you want to press a button, right, but you guess wrong. Okay, right, and then let's say one day it just does a backswing blow. Okay, that one is really fast. Yeah, something like that. So now Devil Jin is in hit mode, and for those of you who fight Devil Jin in hit mode, it's a fucking pain in the ass lah. It's not a situation you want to get into, because 9 times out of 10 you usually lose. His hit smash broken, he got tools to pressure you over and over, put you into a vortex. It's not a situation you want to be in. And rather than give the Devil Jin the situation by just gambling it all on pressing a button, just use your movement. Like, you don't need to pressure them just because they lose their turn. Use your movement. Get the better positioning instead. If you can't take advantage of the streams, take advantage of the positioning. So yeah. I think. Okay, so the concept of pressure, right, is honestly not that long for me to talk about, and I surprisingly, right, I don't have much else to talk about. I think this is pretty much the end of what I have to talk about lah. So from here on out, I'll be listening to any Q&As. Maybe I have missed something. Maybe you guys want me to elaborate more on a certain topic within about pressure. If you have any questions, feel free to ask now lah. For those of you in the chat.
Yeah, Jacket, since now you're on Devil Jin, can you just give a bit of advice on how to deal with that move? I don't know the input lah, but it's like a very long range chain that he has. Yeah, this one. Because it feels like I cannot approach him, you know.
Yeah.
Even from like full screen, I'm a bit scared.
Okay. Okay, I guess in the concept of like pressure lah. So let's say you want. Okay, I'll just continue lah. So let's say you want to pressure your opponent, right? Who is a Devil Jin, but like I said, like I guess we can go back to the topic with Paul, right? When I did like the keep out down for 2. In this case, the concept is pretty much the same, except instead of down for 2, you got up for 1. A tool which on is plus 11 on block for some reason, and then it leads to a mix-up. And it's also it's a high, but even though it's a high, right? The tracking is actually quite okay. I'm stepping in here lah, but like the tracking, if he manages to read a line right, is actually quite decent. However, it's not impossible lah, because it's still a linear chain, provided that they're not smart at realigning. So normally, right, because Devil Jin's weak side is to the right, I usually try to sidestep right block and try to like approach my opponent bit by bit lah. Let's say I'm around here and I'll just shuffle lah, just make it easier. So just to prove the point, so let's say I'm like full screen and I want to approach a Devil Jin. So first off, you need to know the range lah. In this case, up for 1 reaches like half the screen. Like okay, it's 40% of the screen. So now you want to approach your opponent and like just get the range. See, it's around here. I'm already like barely touching the cusp. So from here on out, apart from the fact that it's a high, and apart from the fact that you can switch it out with 442, if I don't want to get into the scenario, I can always try to cover both options up. I use my movement. So basically, like I would try to like just like try to anticipate and down or sidestep right now, because in general, right, this tool is really hard to deal with, I have to admit. But if you are able to like read your opponent, you can actually sidestep the move to the right, even though it's really hard, and launch him lah. But the problem is like I said, if the opponent is good at really lining, then don't bother. You are better off just like ducking, twitch ducking, and hoping for the best. See? But yeah lah, like this move in general is like actually quite stupid lah. Like I don't really, there's no real answer apart from just like knowing how to sidestep right block and ducking at the same and ducking occasionally, which it allows you to like occasionally make the move with and allows you to like get a void punish on him. And even if you block it right, it's better than just simply taking it like a chance of eating a mix up for no reason. At least as long as you like occasionally like sidestep right block and like do maybe a mix up if you're really bossy, it's better than doing nothing. In short, this move is cheap and I hope they nerf it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think because I was trying to sidestep left because Mishima right, sidestep left, but yeah, sidestep right I guess.
Devil Jin is in a peculiar situation where yeah, you can sidestep left the Devil Jin also lah. He doesn't. I think a lot of his tools that track, they really track both ways, or they don't track at all. It's like there's no in between. And in Devil Jin's case, I usually like I naturally try to sidestep right. Mostly because one thing, I used to play big boy characters like Madak and Jack, and their sidestep right is better than sidestep left, so it's a habit for me. And apart from that, they're up on 4 right. If you sidestep right duck, I should just set it to short range lah. I hope they didn't change the properties of it lah, but for me right, it's more or less habit. If I it. So if you sidestep right duck, you can actually make it with. So that's why I usually sidestep sidestep right lah. You cannot get the same thing with like sidestepping left properly. I guess now they change it thanks to the better like tracking, better movement system. So yeah, this is more or less happening to me. But this is good. But this is good knowledge for me because I never knew that Tekken you can now sidestep left up for previously don't.
How do you sidestep and block?
So to sidestep and block, you press up or down to sidestep and then you hold back immediately. That is all, thank you. Like that's really it. It's just sidestep up or down and then hold back, that's it.
Because I usually sidestep and I got like, instant wall running 2 by diagonal and shape.
That's just him getting the timing on you very easily lah. I mean, he's just lucky with the timing. It happens to everyone. Sometimes you try to move around and then you get caught by stray moves. It happens to everyone, even the best. So don't as long as you're aware that you're doing the right thing, you're sidestep blocking, even if you get hit right. Like sometimes it's just like it is what it is lah. You just got caught. But as long as you're aware of what you're trying to do and try to do it to the best of your ability, then it will pay off in the long run. So if they do a instant wall running 2, in your case you said Dragunov, right? If they do instant wall running 2 and then you sidestep block, eventually if you do it properly lah, I'm assuming you do it properly, they will eventually whiff and then you get a free punish behind their back lah. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So anyone else have any questions, preferably about like pressure lah, because the topic is about pressure, but I'm down for anything.
How do you deal with waifu pressure?
Let's see. Okay, so this one's a bit complicated, but I think I'll go with the simple one that everyone has seen lah. So in this case, I guess in this case, right, I'll just go with Devil Jin's the simple missile lah in Hell Sweep and up forward 4. Because if we're gonna go with like the full situation, right, it's really hard to cover. Cause at that point it depends on your opponent being smart. So I'll go with the simple stuff that anyone can blow up. Oh, what the?
I think the combination is like God Fist, all forward 2, up forward 4, and Hell Sweep, right?
Noctis?
No, the full mix up by the Virgin in the waifu pressure. So it's like God Fist, then all forward 2, Hell Sweep, and
up forward
4.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much the main stuff lah. So let me record this first so I can I'm having give me a moment here. So for those of you who want to ask questions but you don't want to speak into the mic, just go to the Tekken Dojo chat and just type whatever you want lah. And I think this is I guess it's a bit late for me to say, but I'll say now. So for those of you who don't want to stay in the Q&A, you already listened to what you need to listen. Feel free to leave. I will post the archives later today or tomorrow in the archive channel. But for now, this will be purely about Q&A from you guys. So, but if you are willing to stay for that, just feel free and just type in the Tekken Dojo chat if you have any questions. Just if you don't wanna talk in the mic lah. Okay, so what else am I missing?
I may have missed how to like escape diagonal pressure, because me and my friend always use like diagonal.
If you don't mind, I'll get back to Kutsi's questions first. But if you could, right, could you just type your question inside the Tekken Dojo chat, so at least I can like go bit by bit, right? If that's okay. Cause I'll be going one by one. I'll be going one by one for the most part. So which is why I said, if for those of you guys who already listen to what I have to say, you feel free to leave lah. But if you want to listen to the Q&A, feel free. But I think the Q&A will be longer than the actual lesson itself. So just a heads up lah. So okay, so apart from that, so this one, okay, so wave hook is up. So this one's a bit tricky because in general, right, you are put into a situation where your opponent is now using their tools and the movement at the same time, because they have the privilege of just simply going up the opponent very fast thanks to their wave dash lah. They can cover more ground very easily, and they got really good tools from it. So how do you deal with this? Now, the thing about Devil Jin, the thing about Mishimas in general, right? Let's talk about Devil Jin. So Devil Jin is a top 2 character, and his tools, his 442, his Alpha 1, Electric, Hell Sweep, his pokes in general are just so solid that people put him to the highest part of the tier list. Like pretty much everyone has the same consensus that this character broken. But that does not mean it's hopeless to deal with it lah. It just means you need to put in more effort and guesswork in order to deal with it. So how do you deal with this? Now for starters, right, you got two. You can only have like 2 options to deal with this. You either use a move to stun them. For example, if let's say you know they're just gonna be greedy, you just use something like 4, or maybe a keep out down for 2. Or if you anticipate when are they going to do whatever they want to do, you pretty much have to use your movement lah, like such and right up. In my case, right, I would usually, because it's Devil Jin, right, I instinctively just such and right up. If I don't want to press a button, I just such and right up, because I cover the electric, I might cover the 442, I cover the Hell Sweep, and I cover the up forward 4 if I time it right. I cover all 4 options on paper, but because like Devil Jin players, they are usually at this stage of the game where the good players are still in the middle ranks, right? They're usually quite smart. They can just fake the wave dash and then just wave dash again and again and again just to bait out your timing, and then you get hit lah. So in this case, right, these are the 2 main options people usually do, and it's the best sort of scenario you would have against people who like to pressure like this with Mishimas. And depending on the character, like let's say it's Kazuya, right, you want to step left. Reina, I cannot say much. Usually I side step right is 442, but I won't delve into Reina in general because she's new to me, and I don't think I'm fit to explain her in a more detailed manner. So in this case, right, if you use your movement, right, it's one of the safer options, like I said, because of the movement. But at the same time, like if your opponent is smart, it leads you to getting like, you know, shit on like this lah. So, and at the end of the day, even though I'm blocking properly, right, it's still guesswork, and I can always guess wrong. In the first place, right, if you're against an opponent who likes to do wave dash mix-ups, you never want to be in this situation to begin with. And I remember mentioning this like during the first time I did like these sort of sections, and I'm sure Pakwan also mentioned it last week during his talks. Prevention is better than the cure. So if you know that there's no answer to this sort of mix-up, like the wave dash mix-ups is just really hard to deal with, you pretty much just have to prevent it from happening in the first place. So let's say you anticipate this guy wants to do wave dash mix-ups, you try not to play at far ranges to begin with. You just try to make sure that you're always within range 1 so that he doesn't get the wave dash on you, and you always just try to smother him with pressure, or what is it? You try to use your fast tools to get something out of him. Like let's say you use your fast tools and then he's like, okay, I'm going to now use electric. Now because you managed to get something out of him, like some data, in this case electric, work around it. In this case, if let's say I anticipate he's gonna use electric, I can just like sidestep right or maybe duck or maybe do both, and then I play around with that. Whatever it takes to stop them from doing the wave dash in the first place, you do that. Because wave dash mix-ups in general are just a pain in the ass to deal with. No one, it's like a pure mix-up because the movement aspect of it is up to the opponent lah. They can choose when to pull the trigger. Like they just wave dash. Oh, now Derek gets a wall. You know, like eat shit lah. So rather than do that, and rather than make pressure by pressing a button and only to get wave punished or launched, just prevent it from happening in the first place lah by pressuring them. This is what the pros usually do lah. They, instead of just simply taking the pressure as it is, they just try to make sure that they don't stray too far from their opponent and knock them out lah. Annoy them with hooks. Then once they start doing something like sidestep electric or sidestep cool or whatever, right? You play around with that lah. You pretty much annoy them enough to press a button. And in this case, you just pressure them, prevent them from doing it in the first place. That would be the best case scenario. But in the event you manage to, if let's say you couldn't do that and you got into this scenario in the first place, all you can do is press a button to snuff them out, like time it right, or maybe use like a faster, like a generic down throw to snuff them out. Or in what I would do, I would use my movement. I would not let the wave, even if the guy is wave dashing against me, I would just sidestep right block, sidestep right duck, sidestep right block or whatever. Prevent myself to get into the wall. Because even if the wave dash is very annoying to deal with, right, because you know it's pressure, you are in the back foot. It's even worse if you get into the wall because now you have to deal with the mix-up, along with the fact that there's a wall there. His 4-4-2 has more meaning to it, and it's really annoying. So, yeah lah. How about dig jab for same concept? You are still mashing out, and if your opponent is smart enough, you eat shit. Like, and if the opponent really is a baller, right? If let's say he sees you try to do the what do you call it, the dig jab, and or at least he anticipates it, right? Apart from doing like a simple punish, he can always do something like wall standing 2 lah. Like it allows, like dig jab is a way to stop that pressure, sure, but it still opens you up to really shitty situations as well. So just putting that into consideration lah. It still falls under the same category. But yeah, hopefully I answered your question, Kutsi. That's pretty much the gist of it lah. Yeah, Kutsi, you there?
Sorry. Yeah, just to add one more thing. How do you do with consecutive hell sweeps if they hit you?
Oh, you mean
like is it pure once a hell sweep hit you already, right? Okay, let's say, yeah. How do you do the hell sweep vortex in general? Once one hit you, and then if you get up fast immediately, it turns to a real guessing game.
So
is it pure guess at that point?
I'll answer this. Okay, I think I can answer this lah before I answer Darkopians because he asked first. But this one's quick. So yeah, it's pretty much a pure guessing game. But if let's say you get hit by a hell sweep, right, your best bet is to just stay on the ground and change up your timing lah. And if let's say you manage to get into what I like to do lah, player status, face down. Let's say my opponent, I know he likes to wave dash into my face lah. So sometimes if I feeling a bit ballsy and I want to take the risk, right, thanks to wake up kicks being safe, you can use wake up kicks. But sometimes from this face down position, I tap up and I use wall standing 4. Or in my case, because I have a launching wall standing 3, if I really want to take the risk, I can just do this. If let's say the guy is like greedy to take the pressure, I can just do something like that because he did not just block and he got greedy. yeah lah, there's one way for me to deal with things. But most of the time, right, Hell Sweep mix-ups are pure guess. Like you are guessing for your life, and you have to make guesswork when it comes to movement. Pressing a button is like it favors Devil Jin lah. It's like the ball falls into his court. Now he is the one who makes you guess. You are the one who has to make the right decision or die. So yeah, that's pretty much it lah. Yeah.
Thanks.
No problem. Dark Opium. So how to escape any pressure? Honestly, right, this one is a very open-ended question. I don't think I'll elaborate it too much because it'll take forever, and the whole purpose of this is for about pressure in general. But I think actually no. In this case, I guess if let's say you get into this situation in the first place, it'll be good lah. And also summarize it. So if let's say you get into a situation where you're getting pressure lah, like I told you, like whether it be through movement or fast pokes or through mix-ups, or just constant pass rate. Now, in this case, right, the first option was, well, like I said earlier, prevention is better than a cure. If you haven't gotten to a situation where you're being spotted with buttons or whatever, you make the decision to do it before they do lah. So that's the first part. But assuming you got into a shitty situation, I think, yeah, it's pretty much actually, honestly, right, I think the answers I mentioned for Kutsi earlier when it comes to Devil Jin's Hell Sweep mix-up, Wave Dash mix-up, it applies to pretty much every character. You just need to use your movement, and you need to use your fast buttons occasionally, but mostly your movement, in order to get yourself out of a bad situation. You cannot, there is no one-off way to simply get out of pressure. If they got into that position in the first place, that means you didn't do a good job in like preventing that lah, or like you didn't control the space. They controlled the space better than you did, and or they got the read on you lah when it comes to controlling the neutral. So when you're on the back foot like this, now you're usually in this position that you have to guess. However, it's not the end of the world lah. Because remember when I said earlier that some opponents like to do keep out launches and use their movement to, you know, force their opponents to make mistakes if they're trying to pressure. Now that also can apply to you. Just because you do keep out launch, okay. Now I know I know some people. There's a bit of a taboo to this lah. Some people say yes, some people say no, but it's okay to actually do keep out buttons. Some people, like, just because, like, let's say if you have a prediction that your opponent likes to do what do you call it? If you know your opponent is just trying to pressure you 24/7, like, and you're annoyed lah. If you have a read on him, you can pretty much just like use your keep out tools, like whether it be a magic 4 or even a down 4-2 if you are a baller lah, to simply snuff them out. And of course, you wouldn't really want to wait for this 24/7 like I mentioned earlier lah, because it opens you up to making mistakes. But there's a reason why even the pros do something like this every now and then, because it works. It prevents them from simply just going, okay, I'm going to pressure you 24/7. No, keep out launcher will just like deter that mindset entirely, making you play honest. So if you know your opponent wants to pressure you, sometimes using a keep out button like Magic 4 or down 4-2 is okay. I do it all the time. Like if let's say I know my opponent like wants to pressure me, Magic 4, problem solved. Like I could use down 4-2 as well lah, but like because you know doing down 4-2 is safe for whatever reason. But I would rather not with a very like slow move like this. I usually like to do something like a Magic 4, because even then, it's fast, counting properties are the same, and I get like 50 or almost 50 damage from it, so it's like I still benefit lah. It's one of the good magic balls out there, surprisingly. So what if let's say you don't have a fast count hit move, or you don't want to reset down 4-2, use your movement. If let's say you know your opponent is trying to do like a run into a Dragunov, sidestep block. Sometimes you block it because you didn't do your move properly, but that's okay, because as long as you know that the move that they use are like, oh, this move that this guy likes to abuse is very linear, I should sidestep. Let's say you mess it up, right? It's okay, do it again. Like you know that if you sidestep it, eventually it's going to whiff because that's the property of the move. Like if the, like let's say you're fighting against, you know, I'll just show it since you asked about Dragonov already.
Get ready for the next battle.
Okay, so in this case, okay, so let's say at any given moment he can do running two. So see, like I'm step blocking, and even though I'm blocking it, it's better than just taking the hit and, you know, taking a lot of damage for no reason. You're trying to make it win. See, I'm just step blocking. I'm not even blocking. I'm just step blocking. I'm just using my movement. I'm not overextending. I'm blocking it, sure, but better to block it. And eventually, see, every now and then, I manage to get to whiff, or I manage to get it to like fly away just because I move around lah. See? Yeah, I got hit lah, but it is what it is because I made a mistake. That happens. So the point is there lah. If you either press a button, preferably a fast one, or you use your movement. Even if you fail, even if you mess up the execution, it's okay because the intention is there. You know that you're supposed to step it, or at least step block it, and as long as you practice and do it right, eventually you are going, their running twos will become useless. Like what are they going to do? Running two and whiff? Sure, you get blocked and you get cheap damage, but it's like all it takes is 1 week. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for that. Any other questions from you, Dark Podium? Dark Copium? Are you there, Dark Copium? Are you there?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, that answers your question lah. So if you have, I'm not sure if you have any other questions. If you don't, then I'll continue. What is it? I'll continue with the other questions on. So Saka, I'll answer your question first. Question: how to find your opponent's timing? So this one, it really comes down to experience lah. So for the most part, right, in order to find your opponent's timing, you need to know what. Okay, apart from knowing how the character plays, right, you also need to know the moves that the character is, like the good moves that the character has, the moves that the player uses. These two are different, and you have to have the experience to know, to have a rough timing of, usually most Dragonov players in this case, right, they like to do riding 2 at this specific time, and that comes from experience. So let me talk about all three of these things. So first thing, knowing the moves of your character. That one is pretty much knowing what your character has in his full list. So for those of you who started Tekken, right, you might look at the move list and see, wow, this guy got 100 moves, how am I gonna remember all this? Well, you don't. You usually only need to remember like 10-15 moves at the very most, and at the very least it's usually like 5 to 6 only. Like the 90% of the moves in the move list are just padding or just extensions of certain moves. Like for example, let's see. Yeah. In this case, right? Like this one, it says like one. This one, it shows like 113, 122, 122 to 132. Basically, it's just like all of these strings that you see in this section alone, like these three strings, are just extensions of Dragonov's one jab. So in this case, 113, 132, 121, and so forth lah. They're all extensions. In other words, they're all padding. Eventually, you're going to need to learn how to deal with these strings also. But the point is that if you're going to pick up a character, right? No, most of the time you can just pick up a character and learn like 5 to 6 moves, and then you still win. Especially when you get better at the game. Yeah. Right, so you are not going to use your entire move list. You're going to use. So next question, next part. Knowing what the player likes to use in the tool list. So, okay. So let's say in Dragunov's case, right? He has like, for example, let's say I give like 50 moves, 50 good tools that the Dragunov player, Dragunov has lah. But let's say this player, like let's say player A, he only likes to use 10 out of 15 of these moves, and each of these moves he use more or less. Some tools, like for example, let's say one jab, right? He uses it a lot. He uses this a lot. And let's say running two, he, even though it's a really good tool, he doesn't use it as frequently. He just uses it sparingly because he knows like for whatever reason he has lah. And let's say, for example, third option, he likes to abuse the fuck out of down two. So that's what I mean by player. What is it? Player move choices lah. It doesn't mean. It just means that. It just means what the moves the player likes to use within the list of moves the character has. In this case, those 3 moves are listed lah. Let's use that as an example. Now the third option, experience. So the only way you can catch the timing of an opponent is that you know what you are looking out for. You cannot simply like blindly look out for a move that you don't even know what it is. You don't know the properties. You don't know like, is it punishable? Do they abuse it a lot? Like if you're just blindly guessing, you can never get someone's timing. You only like, what is it? You can never anticipate someone's timing. You are just making guesswork with yourself that on what this move is. It's just a waste. So like the only way to gain experience with with knowing what Dragunovs like to do is a few things. One, you go to practice mode to learn. 2, you watch other pro players or at least other people to play Dragunov, whether it be your friends, whether you watch professionals like on YouTube or streamers, or third, you try out the character yourself, which in my opinion, at least in my case, right, would be the best thing to do. Because if let's say you don't have like, let's say an upcoming tournament and you're facing a Master Raven player, but your city doesn't have Master Raven players, if you are willing to put up the extra effort to learn the character and actually try him out, you are able to understand more about the character, why they do things, how they do things, and it allows you to get a step ahead lah over your opponent, because you are now a bit more prepared, not 100% but a bit more prepared to deal with the situations that arise. Now all these 3 things I said, let's put them all together in a bundle. So to catch an opponent's timing, right, let's use okay. Now let's say in this case, right, I'm just gonna use 1, 2, and the other one is down 2. So in my case, right, because I'm really experienced, I usually anticipate based on like what my opponent is doing, I usually try to anticipate what they're trying to do based on like my experience against the character lah. So it's really hard to do it against a bot, but I'm just trying to simulate it as much as possible. It's only possible for me to execute it with a human player. So actually I think Saka, if you're willing to stay a bit more, I can go into rank and I can just show it to you myself like later if we're playing. But the bottom line is that a lot of it really comes down to knowing what tools your opponent uses, why they use it, when they use it, and your experience with the character. Because your experience against them. Cause I don't think I can simulate it in a practice mode because it's like I'm against a bot lah. I'm not against a real person. It's really hard for me to anticipate. So yeah. Alright, I answered that. Is there any other question that how do I consciously switch my own timing? So it comes down to your emotions lah. So when you want to switch timing, right, it means that you want to play in a manner that you are calculative. You don't simply just go with the flow. You play based on what's going on in the match. In other words, you think of the you think of the game and not what you want to do. You don't force yourself to do what you want. You play based on what's going on. So if let's say let's say you manage to pressure someone and like they're like 30% HP against the wall. Now, normally, right, some people who let their emotions run free, they will just like continue pressuring. Like they will just like pressure, barter 24/7. Now, you can still do this while being conscious as well, but most people who are within like the intermediate ranks who are like not experts, they usually just go with the flow and just like, you know, autopilot, they pressure, butter, and then suddenly, oh, my opponent sidestep, and then you know, he launches me, and then I lose all the HP advantage I got and the positioning advantage. So a lot of it really comes down to controlling your emotions. You just think to yourself, okay, you just have to think in a logical manner rather than an emotional way. So think to yourself, let's say for example my opponent is 30% HP and I am like 60% HP. So now I should think to myself, okay, my opponent's back is against the wall, his HP is quite low, he has rage, and one wasp flag would kill him. What else? Basically just quickly assess the situation when you get them to the wall, and think to yourself, is it worth it for me to just simply do a low here, or at least press a button here and risk getting counter hit even though I'm like -5, for example? And you just have to think logically lah, like whether you think it's a good idea to press a button. You basically just need to play with logic instead of playing with your emotions. Because if you keep playing with your emotions and you think, oh, he's low HP, I should pressure him and kill him, you are eventually going to open yourself up to mistakes, and then you eat shit lah. But Wombo, if you want me to extend that question, feel free to elaborate. Feel free to tell me lah, because apart from what I already said, there might be something I missed out from your question. So, do you wanna? Does my response answer your question, or is there any scenario you could give me that is more geared towards the question that you have lah? Because I'm assuming you're asking since you experienced something like this. Wombo? Is Wombo there? Hot Boy International 29? Yeah, I guess not. Okay, then I'll move on to the next.
I'm good with your answer. I'm sorry, I was in something.
Okay lah, if that's it, then yeah, then I'll move on to the next question. Hold on. Sun Ryuji, you there? Sun Ryuji?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sorry. What do you want to ask? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. Wait. How about now? Is it better or like?
No, I can hear you now.
Oh, sorry. Oh yeah. So the question I had is like, how do you open up your opponents? Like, how do you open up their defensive? Like, a few times in rank, I pressured them, but I'm not pressured like what's it called? Like 24/7. But there's a time that I didn't pressure 100%. They managed to what's the word? They managed to deplete my health bar to the point like they managed to keep up with me. At first I was winning, and then the last few seconds, like I was realizing, wait, I was losing at the last few seconds.
That just sounds like you overextended lah. So I'm assuming you basically pressured them and then suddenly they got a launcher or poke or fast counting launcher, then you lost all your HP advantage. Is that? Am I getting that right?
I think so. And also somehow it's probably me or my character. Like I try to be a little bit more aggressive in this game. Is more pressure, more a little bit aggressive. Then like, how should I say this? It feels like, I don't know, kind of in a stagnant where like there are some moves that I know I could do better, but I can't. It's not a basic experience, but it's more to like the generic stuff. It's kind of hard to tell by using my words.
Are you saying you want to pressure your opponent, but you? I'm sorry. I also couldn't understand what you're trying to say. Actually,
I'm saying that how do I pressure my opponent while not being like, baited or knowing that what my opponent is saying. Because sometimes I let my emotion take over stuff. No, that's the thing. And sometimes, like, it's kind of rarely, but there are times that I let my emotion take over me that miscloud my judgment.
So okay, for the first part is like how to pressure without overextending. I guess you recently joined lah, so a lot of the stuff you mentioned I already covered during the beginning 20 minutes, like, which is the actual topic area. But I think I'll give you a brief summary lah. So a lot about pressuring is you don't need to use plus frames. You can just use fast pokes and your movement to get your opponent to a shittier position. So in this case, you use your movement to back them up against the wall, or you use your fast pokes like a down for one jab, and moving at the same time if possible, and now you're moving them against the wall. This allows you to not only like get yourself to a better position and put your opponent in a worse position, it allows you to do so in such a way that you're using your buttons to prevent them from like doing anything for free, like a keep out down for two, and without putting yourself too open, because some of the tools you are using, like a metaphor, a jab, are fast recovery. And in your case, since you're saying that you keep like losing the pressure because they get a down for two or something. In other words, you play too emotionally, and then you got yourself like, you overextended lah. You just pressure and then suddenly you got hit by keep out launcher. That's
yeah, something like that.
So in those cases, right, you have to. Okay, so even I get hit by keep out launchers because sometimes I don't anticipate it, but it's fine. So the point is you carry for next time, and next time, right, when you get into a similar situation, because usually if you try to pressure your opponent, you're eventually going to face these situations over and over and over again, especially if it's the same opponent. So if you know your opponent likes to keep out down for two, but you don't want to overextend, right? Let's say you want to dash block and then do something like a running jab or running like a for one. Think to yourself, do I think that this player will do a down 4-2 at this specific moment? If he does, why not I just use my dash block and instead just get myself to a better position without needing to press a button? And if he does a launcher or he whiffs a button, he will punish. If you block it, then punish it or just take your turn. In other words, you want to play logically rather than emotionally. You just need to remind yourself that you shouldn't be playing based on what. Okay, basically you have to remind yourself, right? And I'll speak in first person. I have to remind myself what I cannot simply do what I want. I have to play around my opponent, while I have to understand what game plan I want to do while working around my opponent. Like, for example, if you have a conversation with someone, right, you cannot just simply like talk over 24/7. Like, you don't even get your opponent a chance to say anything, because eventually they are going to retaliate and say, "You're fucking annoying. I will press a button here," or like something like that lah. You will need to play around with their tendencies. Basically, how the opponent likes to retaliate. playing what is it? Fighting games is like a conversation. You want to, what do you call it? It's a two-way street lah. You want to make sure that you are enforcing. You want to make sure that you are conversing what you want to do, without overstepping your boundaries and letting yourself get like shit on. And it's the same case here lah. You want to pressure your opponent without simply letting him go, without overextending and then getting hit by a counter launcher or a launcher lah. The same concept applies. You just need to think about it in a logical manner based on what your opponent likes to do. So let me give you let me just show you an example. So let's say at any given moment I want to do I showed this earlier lah, but I think I can show it again, no problem. So let's say I want to pressure my opponent, and then like let's say I want to get game to the wall. Suddenly I get hit by a launcher because I overextended lah, or I get snuffed out by pressing a button. Like let's say I press a button and then like he catches me with a launcher lah. So like I said earlier, while using your fast tools and while using your movement, you basically want to make sure you basically just want to like pressure your opponent, but you have to keep in the back of your mind, okay, if I use a slow move or if I overextend based on the spacing of my opponent, I will die. So you have to play based on what your character has, like info-wise, and you have to play logically lah. Like my opponent is 30% HP and I am 60% HP. If I do a run up for 1 2 and he does a down for 2, I will die. So why not play it safe, use your movement and dash block, get him to whiff. And if he doesn't press a button, continue pressure with your fast 2 because you're close enough. You want to like all this really just falls down to you playing in a logical manner. If you play based on I want to do whatever I want, you are going to fail, because that's just how it is in Tekken. Tekken is a two-way street. If you try to enforce your own game plan without thinking about what your opponent can or will do based on the player's skill and like character, you will fail. If you keep doing shit like this, for example, and then he just sidestep you, right? All this chip damage, not only will he heal back, you get yourself to a shittier position, and now he gets up ahead. So yeah lah, you have to think about it in a logical manner. It's pretty much the rundown. That's it lah. That's it. Samurai answers the question.
I think I get it, cause like I play like Claudio. Like Claudio, one of his best tool like is running too. I realized something like because most Claudio great moves are high moves. I rely way too much on his high. There are times that I got snuffed out by people noticing, like because of the running motion is getting easier. People start to duck more. I was like, oh crap, I cannot do this. Like I cannot do the Tekken 7 stuff anymore because like it's becoming easier and people like starting, oh, why do I keep my hands? Why do I just stand still? I can duck it. This guy, this guy likes to running too, whether it's on point blank or had a little bit of range. So I was starting to guess like I need a different way to get inside of my opponent hand, and also best way, because when I realized that running 2 does give a chip damage, when they hit engage, their health bar returned back. It's kind of useless at the time. I was like, why do I do this? I just give them like a free buffet.
Okay, so the thing is, right, it's the same concept as I mentioned earlier, that if you use slow moves just to pressure, like, okay, in your case it's running 2, right? In this case it's 4-4 So the problem is, right, you are using like easy to play, not so fast tools to simply start your pressure. You are using tools that people can work around and anticipate, because they're somewhat predictable lah. You can like work around them and you can punish them with a launcher easily if you look out for them. Or something like that, right? It's not easy. You can technically launch it, but it's like good luck lah. Like you have to be like Aslan level, or your opponent has to be really really shit at doing this sort of thing in order for you to be able to launch it. The point is, right, in your case, is pretty much everything I mentioned earlier. You keep like you're using like all these slow tools, and they're starting to duck it. They might start to snap you out of it with jabs, or they might start to sidestep it if they're also good enough, because it's good. So the point is, instead of just doing any of that, use your movement and use your pass box. With Claudio, right? Like, let's say you don't want to use running 2. Just dash block close enough that you are pretty much at range 1, and I'll switch it to show you directly now. So let's say you're using I'm just going to use cardio in this case because I have a familiar idea. So now you want to maintain pressure instead of just like shitting on running 2 and then like suddenly they duck it, right? Just let's say I'm from full screen, instead of just running 2 and then just ducking from full screen, apart from hold 4, you can just go like, oh, I can just dash block. I can just use my dash block, and then now I'm close to their face. I can do whatever they want, and so forth. Because from full screen, right, the only thing, what are the tools that you can only anticipate from here? Running 2 or 4, that's it. But if you
there's another option. So running up for 2. So yeah, that one is a mid. However, it works only. It doesn't work if your opponent like have a Xiaoyu AOP or Fang split. The one that Fang uses like as a low poke. I tried that. Like I watched my rematch. I watched my previous recording. It turns out their low properties start from low bottom. So most mids that came from high to mid didn't work. So I had those as. Because like Claudio FF 1+2 is already gone, so that's my another option to get a stomp burst from mid. But that's the worst part is so linear, you can sidestep that part.
I have to admit, this move is pretty shit. I don't think you should be using this in the first place.
Yeah, because like I tried to like, ever since like he lost some of his core moves, like from the mids that gave him a star burst, like it's freaking hard because options only like either I go for like running 2 or running 4. Now, it's not bad because running 4 got buffed because on counter hit you got a 4-2 to guarantee. However, because I don't have any other options, like I only had those 2. Like I maybe can like stop and sidestep 4, but I think. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was waiting for you.
Continue. Probably I could like add a little bit like adding a sidestep, but transition from that. Running and then stop the neutral a little bit, then go for sidestep. I always like either I went a little bit slow or like my opponent noticed it.
Well, if that's the case, right, that's just you playing too loose and a bit more emotional, like I mentioned. You don't like, sometimes it's okay to just like use your movement to just like dash block closer to your opponent, and now that you're like point blank, right, and if let's say you want to start the pressure because your opponent is scared, do whatever you want. If you're good at instant wall running 2, you can do that because chances are they are not going to duck in like point blank. You've got good tools like, for example, back one's a hella good tool. What else?
Down forward 4? Down forward 3? That forward 4.
You mean down forward 4? But honestly, right, people just use stuff like
the back 3.
Down forward 3. They got back 3. They got up forward 3.
So here's the thing with the back 3. I don't know why. I asked some few Claudio players that I know. Just I don't know. It's probably a bug or something in Tekken 7. Like Claudio back 3, just don't know why they kind of. I don't know. It probably Claudio back 3 is super linear, but sometimes it guns. I don't know what's causing it. It maybe.
Wait, hold on. I'd rather we focus on the question because I don't want to take everyone else's time. And
Sorry.
Yeah, I'd rather we don't like elongate it up. So So I'm not gonna go off tangent. I'm gonna get straight to the point. So in your case, right, because what you're telling me already, I can see why when you're having issues. You're either just using your running tools, like basically you're using approaching tools. You're not using your movement or a fast poke. You're just purely just going, oh, okay, to approach my opponent, I will use running two or I will use up two. That's what you're telling me already, lah. And if I want to mix it up, I will just run up and do side step forward. You haven't mixed anything up, you haven't gained the guy's respect. You are just going, oh, I will either do a running two, which I can duck, or sidestep duck, or I can just do run out sidestep fall. Both of which, if I'm smart enough to, or at least I have the timing run, I can just use a jab. Like I told you in both situations. And if let's say you approach me right, I snuff you out. Just jab. 94, jab. 94. What are you going to do? You want to approach me with like long range tools? Jab. What are you going to do about it? Like side step right, side step right, side step right. Oh, you want to do running two? It's gonna whiff. And if I catch you with the jab at the same time, it's a free combo. That's the point. So
Okay.
yeah, the point is you're overusing your tools in a textbook manner. You don't need to use it like, oh, running two is an approaching tool, I should use it as approach. Don't do like that. Don't be like that. You have to, like in Tekken, there are many ways to get around your opponent. You don't have to play in such a linear manner. Like I said earlier, right, if you use your movement and you use your fast pokes, right, even though it's very low risk, low reward, it leaves what do you call it? It leaves you open to do whatever you want, because now that you're closer to your opponent, you didn't take any risk to get in, and if anything, you use your fast poke to really just like annoy them, right? You don't overextend. You are now able to do whatever you want in close range. You want to press, you want to use like let's say you dash block and then your opponent does a keep out move that's like -9. And you know he's not gonna press a button. Just do whatever you want. You got upward 3, you got forward 4, like, and then you can do whatever pressure you want. And eventually, right, they're gonna get into the wall, and then you know, I think you know the cardio bullshit lah at the wall. Back 1, down forward 3, back 1, back dash, back 1, all this bullshit lah. The point is, you don't have to textbook yourself and then just use running tool. I must use it because it's an approaching tool. Play around with your movement. Play around with your fast pokes. Use it as an extra tool in your arsenal in order to open up your opponent. But do not use it in such a linear manner that you know that every other cardio player will use. You want to focus more on your movement and your fast pokes. Like in higher tier, you will never see. You will rarely see Claudio players like Mongol. They just full screen. I will do running too, unless if they giga brain and they know their player lah. But none of us are Aslan Ash or whatever. You'll never see them do something stupid like this lah. Because you know, I can sidestep right now and kill you. Usually they try to do it from point range. Like this lah. Because chances are if they duck, that like especially at the wall. Like they want to duck this at the wall, then they die, and so forth lah. So yeah, I think that pretty much just answers your question already. I don't think there's anything else for me to delve in apart from that. So, but is there anything else you want me to add on based on what I just said?
No, I think I get it. Yeah. I think I see it. I played a little bit too linear. Played too textbook to be exactly. Yeah, I think I can see it.
It's good to hear. So hopefully that answers your question lah. And if anything, just feel free to ask me and Pongkon, whatever. So yeah. Thanks for asking. Anyways, let me check. Is there any other question I missed? Okay, let's see. I think Jared, your question will be the last one because I don't want to keep people too long as well. So, how do you make use of plus frames, establish pressure to open people up, coming from a 2D environment where it's often strike throw? It's been a bit unusual adapting. So the concept is very okay. In Tekken, I'll explain Tekken stuff as well. But normally, right, if let's say you get a script, right, this base audio is +6. So usually you can pretty much do a lot of stuff. You can just like fake travel and so forth. But what most people usually do is, instead of strike or throw, which is a 2D thing, it's either mid or low. Mid or low. High, mid, low. Well, usually mid or low. The point is, after doing a plus frame move, it's either they duck or they don't duck to make things simple lah. So if they duck, you use a mid. If they don't duck, you use a low. To put them up. That's there's a big layer to this, but it's as simple as it gets lah. And this doesn't even include like just doing more of this over and over. And thanks to Tekken having shield damage, you can now punish your opponent for blocking. It's pretty much the same concept as I believe you played Tekken 6. It's like drive case now. Like if you lose your drive case because you decided to block it out, you now take shield damage and more pressure because everything is more plus for your opponent. Your drive case. Same concept here lah. So how do you make use of plus frames? Now apart from the mid-low stuff that I already told you, right? And the fact that you get shield damage thanks to wait, in your case I don't know which character you use lah, but basically just using tools in your to like chip them off like this. Actually, to make it easier for you, like to understand, Jared, who do you Jared, who do you use actually? Like what character? So I can just like Jun, easy. Cause I also use Jun.
Get ready for the next battle.
So I'll use Jun lah because well I also know how to use Jun as well. So let's say you get 4 for 1 plus 2 and you manage to get them to block it. Now apart from the fact that both of you get chip damage, more so the opponent, you are also plus 6. Now there is a lot of stuff you can do for bonus. You can use your frame traps, you can use your extend pressure, like your plus to extend pressure, frame traps, or you can use your low. So the thing about Jun, right? Your opponent, right? You need to know what your opponent basically know their tendencies lah. So let's say you get a plus frame and let's say you want to just keep it safe. Use your pokes, like use your frame trap, and you just like gauge your opponent from there. Like, oh, I did 4 for 1 plus 2 to down for 1 twice. He doesn't like to move and he doesn't like to press buttons. Maybe this time, because he always likes to block mid, I shall go for a low. Basically it goes from there lah. Like you are just testing the waters with your opponent as you get your plus frames. So in this case, I anticipated that my opponent is the type of person to simply just what do you call it? He never ducks, so I can just do something like, oh, I can use my lows and I can use my choke. And yeah lah, from there. You just use whatever they do to what is it? You just abuse whatever they like to, however they like to react in defense with the plus frames. You use your plus frames in such a way that you are trying to test the waters with your needs, your lows, or your throws. You also got jabs like your high slap to extend pressure because your one jab is like +1. But the concept is pretty much the same lah. Like, in order to open up your opponent, it's like either you frame trap with a mid or high, or you open them, or you just kick them on the shit with a low. If I were to use 2D terms as an example, right? Mids are like most people stand block, right? So your mids are like in the 2D versions of lows. Everyone's going to everyone likes to stand block in Tekken, so everyone's because they want to block the mids. And in 2D fighters, everyone's just blocking, crouch blocking because they want to block the lows. And in Tekken, they're doing lows. And in Tekken, you do lows to open up your opponent who don't like to duck at all. So if we're gonna go with like 2D examples, it's like doing overheads. You use overheads to punish people who like to duck a lot, and that's the whole point of what lows are about lah. If you do this enough, you're going to get frustrated and you're going to start making mistakes by mashing or just blocking the opposite way. It's pretty much the same concept, lah. And like you said, strike throw, right? If let's say they're just blocking really well, you start using the throw. Even though it's easier to break in Tekken because you know you can react to the hands, apart from the counter hit situations, the throw, all it takes is one mishap and you know shit like this. Kazu. I think I'll make this the last question to answer as well, like Kazu. But I think after this question, I'll stop from here lah. I think anything else, just ask me and Pangkwon in the beginner's corner, or just DM us directly because I don't want to keep people waiting. So, anyways, Jared, that's pretty much it lah. I think anything more, I'm basically just going off tangent. That's really it. Mid, low, or throw. So you use mids to use low to open up people who like to mid block, which is like a lot of people. Use mids to hit people who like to duck, or who like to, or in this case because you use fast range, right? You use mids against people who like to retaliate, while also covering the fact that they might duck and keeping yourself safe as well. Because if you do low, it's usually punishable. So you can just use a mid to, you know, cover the interrupting options and if they want to duck. And if let's say all else fails and you want to add in a third layer, you use throws. Same thing. I think a big part of it is that I wasn't quite using lows enough since they're overhead counterparts and 2D are much safer. The thing about lows, yeah, in Jun's case, right, -12 is actually pretty safe. Like, it may not look like it, but most characters, the only thing they can really get is a wall setting form, which in other words is nothing. Like, no one really cares. It's like, oh, they block the low, oh, it's okay lah. It's wall setting form. But there's also the fact that they can also low parry the lows, but thanks to Tekken's new low parry, nerfing the low parry system, it allows people to simply abuse lows with less risk. Of course, it doesn't matter as much now thanks to the fact that chip damage is in the game. So, but because Doom's chip damage is also reduces in speed, it's sort of you sort of still need to use those with her. So the new system helps out with that lah. But yeah, in your case, use your lows. Use your lows, use your throws. Don't forget. 4, down back 3, down 3 for something full crouch, and then down 4, and 4 lah. Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, hopefully that helps. And Kaizo, I guess to answer your question, since it's the last one, can answer the question. If you got stuck on the wall with the good pressure opponent, what should we do? Is it safe to sidestep? Okay. Clear. Switch position. Oh. So what do you do if your opponent is against the wall and he's really good at pressuring? So is it safe to sidestep? Well, you need to sidestep. Like, you need to sidestep block lah, because you eventually are going to need to get out of the wall. I am not sure if you came to Pongpon's lessons last week because, okay, so how do I screw luck. Like, let's say for example, wait, no, I can use mimic. Yeah, so let's say you find an opponent, right, who is keeping you against the wall, and they make it really hard for you to simply get out because they're actually just like using buttons to snuff out your pressure, like snuff out your escape, or they use like homing tools to go like, okay, if you sidestep against the wall, I will use a homing tool and you will get wall splat. They will do something like that. So how would you deal with this? Well, first off, when you get yourself back to the wall, right, you are already in the worst possible situation imaginable, because now, apart from, you know, getting pressured, you are now against the wall. Your opponent can do whatever they want. So all you can really do is you have to play around your opponent lah. Apart from like using your tools, like your fast tools to like make them think, oh, I'm willing to retaliate lah. Basically allow them to offer a sense of security. You can slowly sidestep block by just like tapping up or down and press back at the same time, like very quickly. in order to inch yourself away from the wall and away from your opponent, while also giving yourself a better chance to block. So the thing about this, right, is that while you're sidestepping, they can still catch you with homing tools, and you know, you get wall splat and you get put into an even shittier situation. But eventually, right, you cannot be sticking here forever because you want to get out lah. If you stay here forever, you are going to be in a shit situation no matter what. You are going to lose because your opponent gets an upper hand. So you want to at least like try, and based on your opponent's gameplay and tendencies, you want to try and inch your way out based on the timing, what they like to do, the character, and eventually you'll get yourself away from the wall as a result lah. You might not get it 100% of the time because, you know, the better the player, the better they are, just giving you against the wall. But if you are able to practice this enough, just like knowing how to tally with the jab or nail down or magic fall, and then inching yourself away from the wall by sidestep blocking, you integrate both into your escape plan, then it allows you to, it increases your chances lah to get away from the wall. Not foolproof, not 100%, but I would say like way more than zero lah. Like 80-70% if you're good enough. Of course, the better the opponent, the harder it is, but the concept is always the same. It's just better the opponent, the harder you can do this. So yeah, that's all there is to that question. And yeah, that's all I need to say for it. So hopefully, if you have any other clarifications you want me to make or any other questions, feel free to ask, Kaizo. But I think apart from that, this session is pretty much over, especially the Q&A. I will upload this video to YouTube later, and I'm posting on our channel. Any questions like that you couldn't get out, don't worry. Just ask in the beginner's corner, or you can ask me and or Punkon in person in DMs if you want to keep it private. So if you have, if there's anything else for you to say, Kaizo. If there's nothing else, I think this is pretty much it. Thank you everyone for coming, and I will see you. We will see you, me and Punkon, next time. So yeah, thank you so much for coming, guys.